possibly playing or just doing individual workouts?
Yeah, I mean, probably take a little bit of a break here, just for maybe a week. I don't really want to lose a ton of the stuff I've worked on, and just trying to get my body back to full health. There's some USA basketball stuff I need to get ready for.
Caitlin Clark couldn't hold back the tears. Cameras caught her wiping her face as she hugged Sophie Cunningham one last time, and in that single moment, fans realized something was terribly wrong inside the Indiana Fever. This wasn't just a goodbye between teammates, it was the kind of farewell that confirms what everyone's been whispering behind the scenes. Sophie Cunningham is leaving. And the emotional way Clark reacted didn't just expose heartbreak, it exposed the deeper truth about the Fever's locker room, the tension that's been boiling all season, and the silent power shift that could change everything for Caitlin Clark's future in the WNBA. When Sophie Cunningham first arrived in Indiana, fans thought it was a match made in basketball heaven, a fiery veteran with the attitude of plays, a warrior joining forces with Caitlin Clark, the most electrifying rookie the league had ever seen. The Fever had just come off one of the most talked about drafts in WNBA history, and Sophie's arrival felt like the final piece that could help Clark not only survive the spotlight but thrive under it. Cunningham came from the Phoenix Mercury, where she had earned a reputation as a fierce competitor, a player who never backed down from confrontation. She wasn't afraid to throw her body into a play to talk trash or to stand up for her teammates when the game got rough. That's why the Fever wanted her. They needed someone who could protect their golden rookie from the brutal physical play that had become almost routine every time Clark stepped on the court. But this wasn't just about defense or leadership behind the scenes, insiders said. Sophie brought a new kind of energy to the Fever locker room, a mix of toughness, humor, and intensity that could either glue a team together or set off sparks if the chemistry went wrong. And for a while it worked. Fans loved seeing her hype Clark up after a deep three or jump in to defuse a scuffle. Sophie was the big sister figure the young star seemed to need still. Some people noticed something strange during interviews. When reporters asked about leadership, Sophie often smiled and said, "This is Caitlin's team now." It sounded respectful, but to insiders that line carried weight. It hinted at a shift in power inside the Fever, a silent acknowledgement that no matter how long you'd been in the league, if Caitlin Clark was on your roster, she was the face of the franchise, and everyone else had to adjust. That's where the first cracks began to form. Cunningham wasn't bitter, at least not publicly, but teammates could feel the tension that naturally comes when the old guard meets the new face of the league, and when the cameras weren't rolling people close to the team said the vibe wasn't always as perfect as it looked during games, because while Sophie respected Clark, she also had pride. She wasn't ready to fade quietly into the background. She wanted to compete to win, to prove she was still more than a role player orbiting around a rookie star, and that's exactly what made what happened next so hard to watch. Caitlin Clark's arrival didn't just change the Indiana Fever, it changed the entire WNBA overnight. Suddenly, every game was sold out, every camera was pointed at her, and every move she made both on and off the court became national news. She wasn't just a rookie, she was a revolution, and that kind of spotlight brings pressure, power, and politics inside any team. For the Fever, it meant one simple truth. Everything now revolved around Caitlin Clark. Her stats, her leadership, her endorsements, her image, they all became the team's identity. And while veterans respected her talent, not everyone was comfortable with how fast the hierarchy shifted. People who had built their names for years suddenly found themselves playing supporting roles to a player who had only just arrived. Sophie Cunningham was one of those caught in the middle. She admired Clark's skills, but she also came from an era where respect was earned through time, not headlines, and that difference in mindset started to show during the season. Sophie had always been vocal. She was the kind of player who shouted in huddles, pushed teammates to be tougher, and kept the energy alive. But when Clark entered the picture, the tone changed suddenly. Every timeout was about feeding Caitlin. Every play was drawn around her, and media questions always circled. Back to the rookie star, even when Sophie dropped big numbers, reporters asked about Clark. It wasn't jealousy, it was human. Sophie was fighting to keep her place in a world that now revolved around someone else. Teammates whispered that she was torn between protecting Caitlyn and protecting her own pride. She defended Clark when the rookie was targeted by rough fouls, but she also pulled her aside in private after games, telling her not to let fame go to her head. People saw those moments as leadership, but others read them as tension and to ignore, and it set the stage for the emotional goodbye that would break the internet. It happened quietly, no dramatic announcement, no press release, just a short clip that spread like wildfire across social media. Caitlyn Clark hugging Sophie Cunningham on the sidelines, her eyes red, her voice breaking, and in that moment, the internet exploded. Fans froze, the commentators fell silent, and you could almost feel that this wasn't an ordinary goodbye. Clark held on longer than usual, whispering something in Sophie's ear before stepping back, her hands trembling. People started replaying the video in slow motion, looking for clues in her expression, in Sophie's smile, in the way she turned away with that heavy look that said everything without words, because when you've been in sports long enough, you know that real emotion doesn't lie. This wasn't about a road trip or a short break. This was final, and everyone watching could feel it. It wasn't just teammates parting ways. It was the end of a chapter for the Fever. Sophie had been one of the few players who actually stood up for Caitlyn when the league turned physical, when elbows flew and cheap shots were thrown. She was always the first one in to protect her. And now the person who shielded Clark from the storm was suddenly walking away. Caitlyn's goodbye said what the organization wouldn't. She knew it was over. You could see it in her eyes. The pain, the guilt, the disbelief, all mixed into one heartbreaking moment. Insiders say that hug happened right after a team meeting where contracts and next season's lineup were discussed. Sophie's name wasn't on the board, and Clark knew it before the cameras ever rolled. So, when she hugged her that night, it wasn't a casual farewell, it was goodbye forever. And for the Fever, that moment wasn't just emotional, it was symbolic. A silent confirmation that something inside the team had shifted, that maybe loyalty didn't mean what it used to, and that sometimes in the business of basketball, emotion is the only truth that slips through the cracks. Behind the tears and the hugs, there was a darker story that fans were only beginning to piece together. Because Sophie Cunningham's season had been anything but smooth. It started with a knee injury early in the year, a sprain that kept her off the court for weeks. And when she finally came back, she didn't look like the same player. Energy was still there, the passion was still burning, but the explosiveness was gone. And in a league as fast and competitive as the WNBA, even a small drop-off can be the difference between being a starter and being on the trade block. Reports began to swirl that the Fever coaching staff was losing patience, not with Sophie's effort, but with her durability. And as new young talent emerged, the team started thinking about long-term strategy. They needed players who could run with Caitlyn Clark for years, not veterans, still recovering from injuries. Then came the sideline moment that changed everything late in the season. Sophie was ejected after defending Clark in a heated confrontation with opposing players. It looked noble at first. She was protecting her teammate just like she always did. But internally, the Fever organization wasn't happy. They saw it as unnecessary drama at a time when the team needed composure, not chaos, and sources later claimed that management quietly warned her to tone it down. Still, Sophie never played timid. She was too proud for that. She kept fighting through pain, through criticism, through whispers that she was losing her spot. And when her knee flared up again, it was the final blow. The medical staff advised shutting her down indefinitely. And that's when the rumors began to spread that the Fever might move on entirely. Insiders claimed that her contract wouldn't be renewed and that the team was already scouting replacements, younger wings, faster options, players who could fit seamlessly into Clark's fast-paced system. So when fans saw Caitlyn's emotional goodbye, they connected the dots. It wasn't random, it was the visible heartbreak of losing a teammate who had sacrificed everything to protect her from the league's toughest moments. And it confirmed what many feared: Sophie Cunningham's time in Indiana was over. Sophie's exit hit harder than fans expected because it wasn't just about losing a player, it was about losing the heartbeat of the locker room without her. Caitlyn Clark stands alone in a team that now revolves entirely around her every play. Every headline, every ounce of pressure lands on her shoulders. Sophie was the one who took the hits, who faced the critics, who kept the energy grounded. Now that she's gone, the Fever are different, colder, more corporate, more controlled. Clark's influence has grown, but so has the isolation. The message is clear. The franchise is building around her and only her. It's a power move, but it comes with a cost, because leadership can't be manufactured and the chemistry that Sophie brought can't be replaced, no matter how talented the replacements are. This goodbye doesn't just mark the end of a partnership, it marks the start of a new chapter, one that will test how strong Caitlin Clark really is when the spotlight burns the brightest, and the people who once protected her are no longer there. Rumors suggest Sophie's departure wasn't purely about injuries or contracts, but about deeper changes inside the Fever. Reports claim management wanted a fresh tone, younger players, and a tighter image around Caitlin Clark. It's been said that Sophie's outspoken style clashed with the new direction. She was too real, too emotional, too unfiltered for a franchise now driven by marketing and image. So, when Caitlin said goodbye, it wasn't just sadness, it was guilt. She knew Sophie had been one of the few who truly protected her, both on and off the court. Fans online are still debating. Was this a mutual decision or was Sophie pushed out one? Things clear. The emotional goodbye confirmed what many suspected behind the polished press releases. The Fever are evolving fast, maybe too fast. And for Caitlin Clark, that shift might come with consequences that even she can't control.